engage in what seems like a competition to see how late they can get away with killing an innocent child they no longer want. Remember, first, New York said it should be up until the minute it's born. But, you know, in New York, we're reasonable. So once it comes out, that's where we draw the line. But now we've got the governor of Virginia trying to one-up them, saying, hell, even after it's born, just keep it comfy until the mom decides if she wants it or not. At Rhode Island, they're also joining in on the fun now. This is how we go off a societal cliff, America, where we look back and we say, what the hell was wrong with mankind back then? Learning history is going to be like, oh, you thought it was weird when they hung the babies in cages from their apartment windows in the 30s? Well, just you wait until you get to 2019, and then they just started killing them like savages. But is it really us who believes this stuff? Or is it our leadership? Because there are actually enough people who are against this kind of madness, and the numbers show it. We'll show you those later. Our leaders are the ones who need to step up and actually reflect what the American people want. Congress, they need to end these murder mills like Planned Parenthood. They need to defund the hell out of Planned Parenthood, which they failed to do even when Republicans had both chambers. And then the president, who actually has been the most outwardly and fiercely pro-life president of my lifetime, he also should continue to speak out, and he should say, hey, I'm not going to agree to another dime for these slaughterhouses if they allow this kind of shameless butchery to continue. So abortion is one of those really difficult issues to talk about, probably the most difficult issue to talk about, because people say if you talk about it too much, it makes you look like a religious zealot, doesn't make for good conversation, and plus, of course, it is deeply personal, and it is controversial. But now we're not even in controversial territory. This ain't controversial, because now we're not talking about abortions early on in the pregnancy. We're talking about, in some cases, after the pregnancy, after their birth, killing infants outside the womb. That is the conversation that's going down among lawmakers in Virginia right now. And for those of you who don't know her, allow me to introduce you to this gem, Virginia State Delegate Kathy Tran. This is the woman who sponsored a bill in the Virginia House of Delegates that would allow the termination of a pregnancy up to 40 weeks old. 40 weeks old. When she was questioned about the bill, here's what she said.
How late in the third trimester could a physician perform an abortion if he indicated it would impair the mental health of the woman?
Or physical health.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm talking about the mental health.
So, I mean, through the third trimester. The third trimester goes all the way up to 40 weeks.
Okay, but to the end of the third trimester.
Yep, I don't think we have a limit in the bill.
So, where it's obvious that a woman is about to give birth, she has physical signs that she is about to give a birth, would that still be a point at which she could request an abortion if she was so certified? She's dilating.
Mr. Chairman, that would be a decision that the doctor, the physician, and the woman would make.
I understand that. I'm asking if your bill allows that.
My bill would allow that, yes.
I certainly could have said a week from her due date, and that would have been the same answer, correct?
That it's allowed in the bill, yes.
Yes.
A week before. A week before the baby is born. That is a full baby. She says it's okay to abort that baby. Now, just to give you guys a little bit of color here, this woman is also the main proponent of a bill that would protect the lives of fall cankerworms. She's doing this bill at the same time. Look at this. This, folks, is a caterpillar. This life, this caterpillar's life, means more to this sick, deranged freak of a woman, more so than actual human lives. And Governor Ralph Northam went on the radio and said this in a moment that has since shocked the country and gone viral because he seemed to support the idea of post-birth abortion.
If a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mothers.
And he calls himself a moderate. But he's saying it would be up to the mother whether to kill the child after birth. This is the Repeal Act they're talking about. Apparently they're looking to repeal the U.S. code that makes murder illegal. Now, repeal would, quote, repeal many of Virginia's burdensome trap restrictions, as well as removing some medically unnecessary requirements currently placed on Virginians seeking abortion care. Unnecessary requirements like the baby be in the womb, according to this guy. When he tried to clarify, he didn't even actually do it. He didn't actually ever retract his statement. All his spokesperson said was, quote, the governor's comments were limited to the actions physicians would take in the event that a woman facing non-viable pregnancy or severe fetal abnormalities. Well, that doesn't clear up anything except for that you're not taking back your abhorrent, terrible comments. Because plenty of babies with abnormalities live long, beautiful lives. And their abnormalities don't mean that their lives are any less valuable than yours because they're not these perfect cookie-cutter children. Just ask Frank Stevens, a young man living with Down syndrome who knows more about this than any of the lawmakers because he actually has firsthand experience.
The people pushing this particular final solution are saying that people like me should not exist. That view is deeply prejudiced by an outdated idea of life with Down syndrome. Seriously, I have a great life. Whatever you learn today, please remember this. I am a man with Down syndrome, and my life is worth living.
Isn't it funny? They're always saying it shouldn't be the men in Congress who decide this. It should be up to the people affected by it. Well, how about the people whose lives would be put in jeopardy because of the legislation that you guys are proposing? Those voices matter just as much as anyone's, and I got news for you, liberals. Life doesn't always work out the way you envisioned it, and that's just the way that life is. And that life has meaning, not just for you, but for the children that you bear as well. You do not get to choose to end the gift of a life that God has given to someone else just because you find it inconvenient for you in the moment. The left, they see life as valueless. They see it as something to be discarded if it offers these little inconveniences. Just look at the culture of death they champion on the border. Look at the cartels. But it's inconvenient to them to point that out because it destroys their narrative. It's the exact same thing with the culture of death in many of the Middle Eastern cultures. But that destroys their religion of peace narrative, so the lives of the people who die at the hands of radical Islam are dispensable for the left for the sake of a convenient narrative. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. They're like, we're compassionate. We care about the families. Of course, unless it's not convenient for the woman, then tear that sucker's limbs apart. Here's some demon from Planned Parenthood who went on Fox News last night and iterated those exact sentiments, but of course she did it in her own fluffy liberal code language.
It repeals restrictions that are medically unnecessary, like waiting periods, so that women can make their own decisions about if and when they want to become a parent.
Yeah, you know what? You make that decision before you conceive a child, not after it's formed in the womb. I mean, what's next? A woman gets to decide after she realizes how expensive a baby is that she doesn't want to be a parent anymore? Or what about when she realizes how expensive college is for her child? Then does she get to abort it out of the womb? There's plenty of times, I'm sure, in raising kids where your kids are driving you nuts and the parents are like, oh my gosh, why did I have these crazy little goobers? But only someone as demonic as a liberal would say, therefore, I'm going to kill them. They're only thinking about themselves here so they can continue their meaningless, miserable, irresponsible lives. And then what they do is they wrap it in the phony language of women's reproductive rights. I mean, that's what this is about. They want to kill infants via late-term abortions so that they can convenience themselves. And they do it under the guise that it's their body and that it's good for all women. And when pushed on whether or not this is actually the case, notice how Democrats, they shuffle, they dodge, and they avoid answering the question because they know their answer would disgust a lot of Americans, and Democrat Congressman David Cicilline of Rhode Island, where in Rhode Island they're also looking at very similar actions to Virginia that would legalize abortion up to birth. He did just that when he was grilled. Watch.
Decisions
Do you
about
think it's
her
okay
own
to abort a fetus
healthcare
that's fully
decisions.
developed?
I don't think anyone's making.
Weak.
I'm
asking you.
again. Well, if you'll let me answer. Roe versus Wade is the law of the land. The legislation in Rhode Island attempts to codify that. I respect a woman's right to make a decision about her own health care.
I'm so sick of hearing my body, my choice. It is not your body after 40 weeks. It is another individual's body. We're talking about a child that could live outside of the womb. That is not your body. That is a live baby, and they are trying to make it legal to kill it. Now, the president came out against this, saying on Twitter that, quote, Democrats are becoming the party of late-term abortion, and he's absolutely right about that. And in an interview with the Daily Caller, he reminded reporters that this is common for Democrats. Do you remember, during the debate, I said Hillary Clinton was willing to rip the baby out of the womb just prior to birth, he said. And I use the term rip because that's what it is. That's what they're doing. It's terrible. And he said he thinks this will lift the pro-life movement like never before. And he's right about that. Already, as I said at the top of this thing, the numbers are with us, all right? In 2016, 80% of women supported late-term abortion bans. 80%. And the numbers show that American support for abortion rights, which aren't really a thing, that support wanes as pregnancy progresses. So this is all good stuff. And the president should capitalize on this. Abortion is no doubt a divisive issue among women. And as the president pointed out, it's split down the middle, support for it. Yet somehow being pro-abortion, that has become part of the dominant narrative, but late-term abortion is not divisive. Most women actually do not support it, and they do not support the murderous policies that are being floated in New York, Virginia, and Rhode Island. 80% of women against late-term abortion. And the anti-life organizations like Planned Parenthood, they should be ashamed of themselves. They should be stripped of every single dollar they receive if they engage in this kind of horrific barbarism. The president should make that a promise. He should keep that promise. I really don't know how we got to this place where this is the conversation that we are having. The conversation we are having is whether or not killing fully formed infants should be okay. And yet here we are. And I'll tell you why. It's because the far left's deceitful tactics have shifted the conversation. And even though there are plenty of pro-life people who happen to be women, they tell you this is all about women. It's all about rights, and if you disagree, you don't care about them. Surely they should have these rights. They should have the right to kill their child. And plus, when they do make that decision, does that baby really need to live? If it's going to live such a morbid life, surely we can end it right here, and you can trust that we are doing the right thing because we are Democrats, and we therefore care. After all, we are the party of compassion. We want to abolish ICE. We want more immigrants to come here so they can thrive. We want to keep families together at the border. We love people. Really. Because no matter how you spin it, there is nothing compassionate about you if you support murdering innocent children. And hearing a governor of a United States Commonwealth say that a baby should be made more comfortable while a decision is made about whether it gets to live, that should send chills down your spine. I don't care who you are. Pro-choice people should join hands with pro-life people on this against this kind of brutality. Period. They should come together, and we should all say we refuse to normalize murder here in the United States. And that should be the end of the conversation.